Faithfully adapting a manga to anime can be extremely difficult, but not only just because of the actual animation aspect. The anime has to convey the manga's intentions, its emotions, its characters' personalities, and pretty much every other aspect, but dialed up 100 times. Well, what if I told you that there exists a scene within anime that is not only adapted to perfection, but is without a doubt one of, if not the greatest, anime scenes of all time? Coming to your head right now are probably scenes like Goku turning Super Saiyan for the first time, Jiraiya meeting his end fighting Pain, maybe even All Might using every last ounce of his power to fend off All for one final time. While these are some of the best scenes in anime, I believe the work of one man triumphs over them all. So please sit back and enjoy as I tell you how Tite Kubo made the best anime scene of all time.
Okay, let's go!
To really understand why Tite Kubo was able to construct the best anime scene of all time, we first need to go over what differing layers come together to create a great scene in general. But before we begin, obviously, watching an anime produces a subjective experience for every individual viewer. So, if you find yourself disagreeing with any of my opinions or talking points, please make sure to tell me why in the comment section down below. So, what truly does make a great anime scene? For me, there are 4 differing layers. Number 1, the narrative context. What is led up to that scene in the story, and why does it matter when thinking about the current stakes at hand? Number 2, the hurdle. What is the character having to overcome to produce a positive outcome for themselves? Number 3, the set design and the atmosphere. What is taking place around the characters? Who inhabits the scene, and how does it lift up the entire story at hand? And finally, number 4, the payoff. What is the climax to which all of these separate layers have been building up to? In my opinion, all of these layers are what combine together to create the perfect anime scene. So, with that in mind, what actually is the best anime scene of all time? If you watched my pound for pound resume video, which you should if you haven't, you might recall me talking about what I believe to be the best scene in anime towards the end of the video. Well, I believe the best scene in anime to be the moment Bleach's Ichigo Kurosaki regains his powers as a Soul Reaper after he was betrayed and stripped of his Fullbring abilities by Kujo Ginjo. But why? Allow me to explain. To begin, let's go over our first layer, the narrative context. Every great moment in anime has a strong narrative context surrounding it, and this is no different. Throughout the Fullbring arc, Ichigo had been on a path to regain his lost Soul Reaper powers in the form of his newly discovered Fullbring abilities. At this point, we, as the audience, have been with Ichigo for hundreds of episodes, and we understand the mental struggles he faces without his Soul Reaper abilities. Ichigo's entire motivation throughout the entirety of Bleach is his desire to protect the people he cherishes. He cares for others more than he cares for himself, and after his final battle with Aizen, Ichigo lost his ability to protect the people he loves. This is where our antagonist comes in, Kujo Ginjo. Ginjo acts as a friend to Ichigo for a large part of the arc, reassuring him that he'll be able to protect his friends again soon enough. Through helping him develop this new Fullbring ability, Ginjo lures Ichigo into a false reality of community. This created a profitable situation for Ginjo. Through exploiting Ichigo's want to protect his loved ones, Ginjo manipulates him, using the help of his partner Tsukishima to brainwash Ichigo's friends and family. Tsukishima masquerades around as the main antagonist for a large part of the arc, allowing Ginjo to act in the shadows behind Tsukishima's nefarious deeds. This is only but a distraction for the real battle that's truly taking place, Ichigo's battle with himself. Although Ginjo and Tsukishima are present and physical threats throughout the Fullbring arc, the real threat is what's taking place within Ichigo's mind. And this leads to our second layer. As Bleach has gone on, Ichigo has not necessarily been challenged mentally, only physically. While there have been some moments where his mental strength has been tested, for a large majority of the series, each one of his opponents presented a strong physical hurdle to overcome. Characters like Kenpachi, Byakuya, Grimmjow, Ulquiorra, and Aizen. Each one of these individuals was more about the physical challenge for Ichigo. What Ginjo presents is quite the opposite. Ginjo represents a mental challenge for Ichigo to overcome that he hasn't had to up until that point in the story. Throughout the entire series, Ichigo is shown to give every last ounce of his energy in a fight, whether he was winning or losing. This is most notably apparent right before his death to Ulquiorra. Ichigo refuses to give up even when faced with certain death. However, when his power is stolen from him, he feels utterly helpless. He feels this way because through his own understanding, he has failed to protect his loved ones. But Ginjo isn't necessarily the real hurdle Ichigo has to overcome. He acts more as a foil, a representation of what is strong about Ichigo as a character, but also what is weak. As I mentioned earlier, Ichigo holds a very simple, but very admirable, motivation throughout the entirety of Bleach. He simply wishes to protect the people he loves. When his Soul Reaper powers were lost, he struggled to cope with the fact that his friends, Uryu, Chad, Rukia, and Orihime, didn't need his help anymore, and even if they did, he would be powerless to do anything. Because of this, Ichigo puts himself in a lull, and at the slightest bit of hope that he could once again reach that ability to protect his friends, he jumps directly into the hands of Ginjo. This desperation is further enhanced by Ginjo and Ichigo's final battle, where we see that Ginjo never really even stood a chance to Ichigo's true strength, further giving leeway to the idea that Ichigo's desperation and decreasing mental state led him to fall into the clutches of a man who would never be able to best him in any other way. Kubo handles Ichigo's mental challenges throughout this arc so wonderfully. It acts as a roller coaster with several highs and several lows, almost emulating the real struggles people endure in real everyday life. All of the mental strain finally leads to the moment where Ichigo gets his full brain power stolen. He learns that he has been betrayed by a person he considered an ally, and more importantly, a friend. Through losing his ability to protect his friends for a second time, Ichigo sinks into his mind, falling deeper and deeper into the ocean of despair that he has created within himself. Ichigo's resurgence as a Soul Reaper takes place at a very unassuming location within Karakura Town. However, it isn't the specific area that makes the scene so special. It is everything that is added on top of the location that creates its enchanting atmosphere. Ichigo and Ginjo find themselves on the rooftop of a building under the dark blue night sky. When his powers are stolen, the audience is shown a physical representation of the despair Ichigo is feeling in that very moment. The environment enhances the characters inhabiting it, making every little detail surrounding Ichigo's traits and struggles so much more impactful. But through small details, that plain roof somewhere in Karakura Town is transformed into one of the most metaphorically important set pieces in the entirety of the series. The sky becomes drenched in dark gray clouds, and it begins to rain heavily upon Ichigo and Ginjo. Rain in media is usually used to indicate a feeling of sorrow or sadness. A good way of thinking about what rain represents is through the very famous saying, "Don't rain on my parade." A parade is a fun, joyous event that brings happiness to whoever is partaking in it. The rain is what unfortunately brings down the fun, as it is cast down from dark gray clouds, flooding the once clear blue sky. Ichigo, feeling utterly helpless in his largest moment of sorrow, is rained down upon, and the roof, which stands directly under the sky, leaves him with absolutely zero protection. However, the concept of rain is also very specifically symbolic to Ichigo and the series of Bleach as a whole. Throughout the series, Ichigo's inner world has been directly linked to Zangetsu's disdain for rain. Ichigo's sadness is what brings rain upon his inner world, and in a world as vast and as empty as the Zanpakuto's, rain stands as a reminder of such sadness and isolation. For there to be rain means Zangetsu has not protected Ichigo, meaning he has not fulfilled his duty as his Shinigami Zanpakuto. So, when rained upon in the real world, Ichigo sinks into his mind. He sinks through the former world of his Zanpakuto, a world filled with water, which formerly acted as a representation of his Zanpakuto's sadness and despair. But now, it is truly empty, soulless, and still filled with the same water that made Zangetsu, Ichigo's Zanpakuto, so sad. With Zangetsu missing, Ichigo is chained to his own mind, literally and figuratively, and he continues to sink farther and farther into his own despair. Kubo's usage of the environment adds emotion and meaning behind every bit of animation seen on screen. And with Ichigo falling deep within his mind, there seems to be very little hope for our protagonist. Finally, the payoff is the part of a scene where the audience feels rewarded for all of the build-up in time they've spent watching up until that point. In every anime arc, there is one final moment that acts as that payoff. Goku turning Super Saiyan and beating Frieza, Tanjiro using his sun breathing for the first time to kill Rui, etc. In the case of this scene, the audience receives one of the most satisfying and emotional payoffs in anime, and in my opinion, the best payoff of all time. Ichigo, after sinking into his own despair, falls onto one of the high-rise buildings within his inner world. He questions himself, believing that this is truly the end. These thoughts continue until a light shines at the top of his ocean of despair. However, this light doesn't represent another person's helping hand. It represents Ichigo's strength. He utters to himself, "I want to become strong and protect people from hollows." As long as he breathes, Ichigo wishes to use his strengths to try and protect people. Whether that decision to protect people is recklessly stupid or admirably smart, Ichigo's will would not prevent him from at least trying. Beginning to break the chains binding him, Ichigo rises from his despair, almost as if realizing that feeling powerless would do nothing to help his situation. Breaking the last chains surrounding him, Ichigo makes his final promise to himself. He will defeat Ginjo. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to face his mother in death. Ichigo's mother being his last inspiration is beautiful and genuinely heartwarming. Ichigo's desire to protect the people he loves stems from his mother's selfless sacrifice to protect him from a hollow in his youth. Overcoming his biggest mental hurdle in the series, Ichigo returns to his former self, a resolute man who never gives up. Rising to his feet and fighting against the rain, Ichigo screams at Ginjo to give him his powers back. All sound cuts out, and the only thing you can hear is the loud downpour of the rain. Finally, the payoff is delivered. Ichigo is stabbed in the back by Rukia with a sword imbued with soul energy, calling back to the moment he first got his substitute Soul Reaper powers at the beginning of the series. One journey began with Rukia and Ichigo, and now, the start of a new journey begins with the same pair. A blast of energy erupts from Ichigo, and a large gust of wind picks up, fully clearing the sky of its dark clouds, and more importantly, removing the rain from the atmosphere. Ichigo's despair has evaporated, and he emerges with one of the cleanest looks in the series in his newly acquired full-bring Soul Reaper attire. The design is sleek, and the moment is epic. Ichigo appears from out of the dust cloud with his newly shaped Zanpakuto resting confidently on his shoulder. This scene delivers such a wonderful feeling of resolution. Ichigo finally being returned to his previous self felt so rewarding to watch, and it just felt right. He, of course, goes on to perform one of the most iconic Bankai transformations in the series shortly after, but that could be a video for another day, so we'll leave it here for now. So, what do you guys think? Is this the best scene in anime? Or are there others that you believe to be the best? Please feel free to let me know down below in the comments, and I will happily respond. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you guys so much for 100 subscribers. I know the number doesn't seem so large in the grand scheme of things, but every journey starts off small. So again, thank you so much for choosing to subscribe to the channel, and I promise I will continue making videos for you guys to talk about and enjoy. With that being said, one final time, thank you so much for watching, and until next time.